Om Tavagatam Ritam Tapta Jivanam Gavibiriditam Karmashapaham Shravanamangalam Shrimadatam Bhuvi Grinanti Yiburida Janaha. O Lord, your nectar-like words stop the burning misery of afflicted souls. Your words which the poets have sung in verse vanquish sins forever. Blessed are they who hear of your vast glory. Blessed indeed are those who speak of you, and how unparalleled is their bounty. So last week we're reading from the first volume, and the first volume is divided into 18 khans. Or really, in English we would say 18 chapters. So we started the first section of the first chapter last week. So this will now be the second section of the first chapter. So last week we had a very beautiful and detailed description of Dakshineshwar, every inch of Dakshineshwar, the entire temple complex described. And it was very interesting that with each area of Dakshineshwar, M always referred it back to Sri Ramakrishna, how each place referred back to Sri Ramakrishna's Leela, and how, so for him, again, and also it was very much in the present continuous tense, because for him, each of these sections of each chapter is a meditation. And so, the second section describes his first darshan, his first encounter with Sri Ramakrishna. And it starts with a little verse, and it's actually the verse that we just recited from the Srimad Bhagavatam. So, O Lord, your nectar-like words stop the burning misery of afflicted souls. Your words which the poets have sung in verse vanquish sins forever. Blessed are they who hear of your vast glory. Blessed indeed are those who speak of you, and how unparalleled is their bounty. First encounter, February 1882. And we should say one thing. In the Bengali, when M refers to himself, he refers to himself as Mashtar. He actually uses in Bengali a phonetical Bengali transliteration of the English word master. So in Bengali it reads Mashtar, because he was a schoolmaster. So that's how he always referred to himself. The only place he refers to himself as Mokar, or M, as the letter M, is on the title page of each volume. So when you see master, it refers to M, and Thakur is the word he uses to describe Sri Ramakrishna. So first encounter. On the bank of the Ganga, at Kali's home in Dakshineshwar, Mother Kali's temple, springtime in the year 1882, according to the English Christian calendar, the month of February, a few days after Thakur's birthday celebration, a few days after Thakur's steamer trip with Keshav Sen and Mr. Joseph Cook on Thursday, February 23rd. Dusk settles in. Master, M, arrives at Thakur's Ramakrishna's room. This is the first encounter. He sees a room full of people, motionless, drinking in his words of nectar. Thakur sits on a wooden bed, facing east, with a smile on his face, talking of Hari. The devotees are seated on the floor. When to renounce rituals. M stands speechless, watching. He feels as if Sukadev is present, speaking the Bhagavatam, or as if all places of pilgrimage have been gathered together, or as if Sri Chaitanya is in Puri, seated with Ramananda, Swarup, and other devotees, singing the names and glories of the Blessed One. Thakur is saying, when chanting Hari once, or chanting the name of Rama once, if your hair stands erect, if you shed tears, then know for certain that rituals such as twilight devotions, sandhya, don't have to be performed anymore. Then you've earned the right to give up rituals. Then rituals leave on their own. Then it's enough if you just repeat Rama's name or Hari's name or pure Om. Again, he said, Sandhya dissolves into Gayatri. Gayatri dissolves into Om. Master, accompanied by Sidhu, has arrived here after strolling in this garden and that garden in Bharanagor. Today is Sunday, the 26th of February, the 15th of Falgun, and they have leisure, so they have come to the temple complex. A little while earlier they had been strolling through respected Prasanna Banerjee's garden. Then Sidhu had said, "On the bank of the Ganga there's a wonderful garden. You want to go see the garden? A Paramahamsa lives there." Entering the garden through the main gate, Master and Sidhu had come straight to Thakur Sri Ramakrishna's room. Master is speechless, looking around and thinking, "Ah, what a beautiful place. What a beautiful man. What beautiful words. I don't want to move from here." After a while he began to say to himself, "First, let me see where I've come. After that, I'll come back here and sit down." He had barely come out of the room with Sidhu when the sweet sounds of Arati began. All at once the sound of gongs, bells, drums, and cymbals rose up. A sweet sound began to come from the Nahabat at the southern end of the garden. That sound traveled along the bosom of the Bhagirati, the river Ganga, and went off far into the distance where it began to melt away. A gentle spring breeze carries the scent of flowers. Just now the moon rises. It is as if from the four directions preparations are being made for the arati of the various deities. Master was extremely delighted, having witnessed the arati in the 12 Shiva temples, the Sri Sri Radhakanta temple, and the Sri Sri Bhavatarini temple. Sidhu said, "This is Rasmani's temple. Here daily service is done. Many guests and poor people come." Talking as they left Ma Bhavatarini's temple, the two of them walked across the tiled courtyard and again arrived in front of Thakur Sri Ramakrishna's room. This time they saw that the door to the room was shut. Incense has just now been offered. Being English educated, Master was not able to enter a room abruptly. Brinde, the maid, was standing near the door. He asked, "Hey there, is the holy man now inside?" Brinde, "Yes, he's inside the room." Master, "How long has he been here?" Brinde, "Oh, he's been here a long time." Master, "I see. Does he read many books and the like?" Brinde, "Oh dear, books and the like. They're all in his lips." Master has just finished his schooling. Hearing that Thakur Sri Ramakrishna does not read books, he was all the more dumbfounded. Master, "I see. I understand he'll perform Sandhya now. Are we able to go inside the room? Will you announce us?" Brinde, "Why don't you just go in, dears? Go inside the room and sit down." Then they enter the room and see that in the room, no one else is there. Thakur Sri Ramakrishna is in the room alone, seated on the wooden bed. In the room, incense has just been offered, and all the doors are closed. Master entered and saluted with joined hands. Thakur Sri Ramakrishna bid them sit down, and he and Sidhu sat down on the floor. Thakur asked, "Where do you live? What do you do? What brought you to Bharanagor?" etc. Master gave all of his details. But he began to notice that from time to time Thakur would become absent-minded. Later he heard that this is called bhava. It is as if someone has sat down, rod in hand, to catch fish. The fish comes to eat the bait. As soon as the float moves, that person grips the rod and keeps looking toward the float with one vision, one mind. He does not speak with anyone. Bhava is just like that. Later he heard and saw that after dusk, Thakur entered this state of bhava. From time to time he had no external consciousness. Master, now you'll perform Sandhya so we can go. Sri Ramakrishna in bhava. No, Sandhya, nothing like that. After a little conversation, Master saluted and took leave. Thakur said, "Come again." While returning, Master began to think, "Who is this serene one? I want to go back to him. Without reading books, can a man be great? How amazing! I want to come back again." He even said, "Come again. I'll come tomorrow or the next morning." And that's section 2. Section 3 of the first chapter. And here he has a verse from the Sri Guru Gita, The same verse occurs in the Sri Vishveshwara Tantra, revealing that which pervades this entire universe of moving and unmoving beings. To that divine Guru we bow. So this is the second encounter in the Guru-disciple relationship. The second encounter is at about 8 in the morning. Thakur is going to get shaved. It is still a little cold, so he is covered in a moleskin shawl. The shawl's edge is bound with a coarse red fabric. Seeing Master, he said, "You've come. Sit down here." This conversation was taking place on the southeastern veranda. The barber had arrived. On that veranda, Thakur sat down to be shaved, and from time to time he spoke with Master. He has that shawl on his body, open-heeled slippers on his feet, and a smile on his face. When he speaks, there's just a slight stutter. Sri Ramakrishna to Master. "So where's your home?" Master. "Sir, in Kolkata." Sri Ramakrishna. "Where around here are you staying?" Master. "I'm staying at my older sister's house here in Baranagar, Ishan Kaviraj's home." Sri Ramakrishna. "Oh, Ishan's house." Keshav Chandra Sen and Thakur is weeping before Ma. Sri Ramakrishna. "Oh yes, how's Keshav? He was very sick." Master. "I also heard that, though now I think he's better." Sri Ramakrishna. "So then I vowed to give Ma green coconut and sugar for Keshav. In the middle of the night my sleep would break, and I'd weep before Ma, and I'd say, 'Ma, please cure Keshav of his illness. If Keshav doesn't live, who will I talk to when I go to Calcutta?' So I vowed to offer green coconut and sugar." "Yes, isn't there a Mr. Cook who's come? Isn't he giving lectures? Keshav took me on a steamer. Mr. Cook was also there." Master. "Yes, sir, I've heard something like this, but I haven't heard his lectures. I don't know anything particular about him." Duties of a householder and father. Sri Ramakrishna. "Pratap's brother came here. He was here for a few days. No job or work. He said, 'I'll stay here.' I heard that he'd left his wife and children at his father-in-law's house. A lot of children. I scolded him. 'You see, he's got children. Will those neighbors come and feed them and raise them? He isn't even ashamed that his wife and children are being fed by someone else and that he's abandoned them at his father-in-law's house.' We really scolded him and told him to look for a job. Then he wanted to leave from here." And that's the third section. So you can see here, this is all one scene here, but M's divided them into these sections because for him, just that right there was a meditation. But we have a little time tonight, so we'll read a few sections. So this is the fourth section. And again, from the Guru Gita. "Blinded by the darkness of ignorance, he opens our eyes with the salve of knowledge. To that divine Guru we bow." Master rebuked and his ego crushed. So now keep in mind, they're still sitting there. Thakur's getting shaved. And so they're both on the veranda. Sri Ramakrishna to Master. "Are you married?" Master. "Yes, sir." Sri Ramakrishna with a shudder. "Oh, Ramlal. He's already married." Ramlal is the nephew of Sri Ramakrishna, one of the priests at the Dakshineshwara temple. And we should keep in mind, you should know that Ramlal's also married. Sri Ramakrishna is also married. So something's going on here. So, he's already married. Master was speechless and lowered his head as if he were some dreadful offender. He kept quiet and continued to sit. He began to think, is getting married such a crime? And then Thakur asked, "Do you have children?" Master's heart is pounding. He said fearfully, "Yes, sir, I have children." Thakur again says regretfully, "Children already." Rebuked, he sat there stunned. His ego began to be crushed. After a little while, Thakur Sri Ramakrishna then said tenderly, with a merciful look, "You see, you have good signs. When I look at someone's forehead or eyes, I'm able to understand all this. So how's your wife? Vidya Shakti or Avidya Shakti?" So Vidya Shakti is the power of Divine Mother that illuminates, that reveals knowledge. Avidya Shakti is the power of the Divine Mother that veils or conceals knowledge. What is wisdom? Image worship. Master. Good sir, but ignorant. Sri Ramakrishna, displeased. And you are a wise man? Master does still not know what is called wisdom and what is called ignorance. Up until this moment, he had thought that if one learns reading and writing and is able to study books, then one has wisdom. This mistake was removed later on. Then he heard that knowing God is called wisdom, and not knowing God is called ignorance. When Thakur said, "And you are a wise man," Master's ego was struck again by an especially hard blow. Sri Ramakrishna, well, do you believe in an absolute with form, sakara, or without form, nirakara? Master, astonished to himself, if one believes in sakara, is belief in nirakara possible? If one holds this belief in nirakara, is this belief in sakara possible? Can two contradictory positions be true? Can a white thing, milk, also be black? Master, sir, nirakara, this appeals to me. Sri Ramakrishna, that's fine. If you have belief in one, it's enough. Belief in nirakara is very good. But don't think that only this is true and everything else is false. Know that nirakara is true and sakara is also true as well. Hold on to what you believe. Hearing these ideas again and again, declaring that both are true, Master sat there speechless. These ideas were not found in his study of books. A third time, and his ego continued to get crushed. But not yet completely. So again he came forward to debate a little. Master, sir, suppose someone has this belief that he has form, but he is not a clay image. Sri Ramakrishna, why clay? Image of consciousness. Chinmoyi Pratima. Master could not understand this image of consciousness. He said, well, it should be explained to those who worship clay images that God isn't a clay image, and when you're in front of the clay image, perform your worship with God as the object. One shouldn't worship clay. The next section, lecture and Thakur Sri Ramakrishna. Sri Ramakrishna, displeased. That's the one thing with you Calcutta people. Only giving lectures and giving explanations. Who's there to explain anything to you? Who are you to explain? The one whose universe this is, she will explain. She who has made the universe, the moon, the sun, the seasons, human beings, animals, the means to feed animals, and made parents to raise them, and made parents affectionate. She herself will explain. She's made so many paths. Won't she also make this path? If understanding is needed, she'll explain. She's the inner guide. If there is some mistake in worshipping that clay image, doesn't she know she's the one being called? She's satisfied with that worship. Why get a headache over this? Try to get wisdom and devotion yourself. This time, Master's ego felt completely crushed. He began to think, what he said is right. What's the need for me to explain things? Have I known God? Or do I have the highest devotion for her? You yourself have no place to sleep, and you're inviting your friend Shankara. It's an old Bengali proverb. I don't know, I don't listen, and I'm going to explain things to others and speak extremely shameful words and do foolish work? Is this the same as mathematics, history, or literature, that I can explain it to others? This is the truth of God. I like what he's saying. This was his first and last debate with Thakur. Sri Ramakrishna, you were talking about worshipping clay images. Even if it is clay, there's a purpose in that worship. God herself has provided various kinds of worship. The one whose world this is, she's made all these. There are differences in ability. A mother prepares food according to one's stomach. A mother has 5 children. Some fish has come into the house. The mother makes various types of fish dishes according to each one's stomach. For one, she makes fish with rice. For another, sweet and sour fish stir-fry, fish fries. She's made all these, according to what each one likes, according to the digestion of each one's stomach. Understand? Master. Yes, sir. Do we have time for... So that was the 4th section. And this is the 5th section. This is actually a verse from a hymn to Sri Ramakrishna by Swami Ambikananda, Sri Ramakrishna Lokanath Stotram, verse 12. This is how M puts it as an epigram. The captain of the boat saving those who are sinking in the ocean of the world, we bow to Ramakrishna, the divine Guru, again and again. So his ego has been crushed, and now he will ask 4 questions, and Thakur will give answers to those 4 questions. The means of devotion. Master, humbly. How do we draw the mind to God? Sri Ramakrishna. You have to always sing God's names and glories in holy company. From time to time, you have to go to God's devotees or to sadhus. If you live day and night within the world and within worldly work, you won't think of God. From time to time, going into solitude and thinking of her is very necessary. In the beginning, without solitude from time to time, keeping the mind on God is very difficult. When a young tree is being looked after, it needs to be fenced in on all 4 sides. Without fencing it in, it's eaten up by goats and cows. Meditate in your mind, in a corner, or in a forest, and always distinguish between the real and the unreal. God alone is real, that is eternal. That is the eternal reality. Everything else is unreal, that is temporary. While distinguishing like this, give up temporary things from the mind. Master, humbly. How should we live in the world? Householder renunciation means spiritual practice in solitude. Sri Ramakrishna, do all work, but keep the mind in God. Wife, son, father, mother, live with everyone and serve them, as if they were very much your own, but know in your mind that none of them are yours. In a rich man's house, a maidservant is doing all the work, but her mind is on her own house in the country. Also, she raises her master's children as if they were her own. She says, my Rama, my Hari. But in her mind, she knows very well, none of them are mine. A turtle moves about in the water, but do you know where her mind is? It's on the riverbank, where her eggs are. Do all action in the world, but keep the mind in God. If you haven't attained devotion to God, and you go act in the world, you'll get more and more entangled. Grief, danger, suffering, they'll become unbearable. And the more you think of the world, the more you'll get attached. You have to smear your hands with oil and then break open the jackfruit. If you don't, then the resin sticks to your hands. You have to acquire oil in the form of devotion to God, then set your hands to the world's work. But in order to attain this devotion, being in solitude is necessary. To produce butter, you have to go into solitude and let milk curdle. If you keep disturbing the curd doesn't set. After that, you have to sit in solitude, throw aside all other work, and churn the butter. Then the butter can come out. And then you see, when this mind thinks of God in solitude, then wisdom, dispassion, and devotion are attained. But when you keep it in the world, then that same mind sinks down. In the world, there's just one thought, lust and greed, kamani kanchan. The world is water, and the mind is like milk. If you put it in the water, then milk and water get mixed together and become one. You can't find the pure milk. After curdling the milk and bringing out the butter, if you put it in water, it floats. So by first practicing spiritual disciplines in solitude, acquire butter in the form of wisdom and devotion. Even if you leave that butter in the water of the world, it won't get mixed. It will float. Along with this, analyzing is very necessary. Kamani kanchan is temporary. God is the only reality. What's there in money? There's rice, there's lentils, there's clothing, and there's a place to live. That's it. But the Blessed One isn't attained by it. So money can't be the purpose of life. This is called analyzing. Understand? Master. Yes, sir. I just read a play called The Rising of the Moon of Awakening. In it, there's discerning what's real. Sri Ramakrishna. Yes, discerning what's real. Look at it this way. What's there in money? And what's there in a beautiful body? Analyze. And even in a beautiful female body, there's just bone, flesh, fat, feces, and urine. All of these. Why does a human being let go of God and give their mind to all these things? Why forget God? Means of the vision of God. Master. Can God be seen? Sri Ramakrishna. Yes, certainly she can. From time to time, staying in solitude, singing her names and glories, discerning what's real, you have to rely on all these methods. Master. In what state do we see her? Sri Ramakrishna. When you weep with intense yearning, she can be seen. People weep a bucket of tears for family. People weep a flood of tears for money. But who's weeping for God? You have to cry out with a real cry. Saying this, Thakur began to sing a song. Call out, O mind, with a real cry. And how can Shama stay away? How can Shama stay away? How can Kali stay away? If the mind is one-pointed, then take hibiscus flowers and bay leaves, and dipping them in the sandal paste of devotion, offer them at Mother's feet. Then Thakur says, as soon as there's yearning, the dawn sky turns red. After that, the sun will show himself. After yearning is the vision of God. If three attractions are combined, then she shows herself. A worldly man's to the world, a mother's to her child, and a devoted wife's attraction to her husband. If these three attractions are put together, then by the force of that attraction, one can attain God. The point is this: you have to love God, like a mother loves her son, like a devoted wife loves her husband, like a worldly man loves the world. These three people's love, these three attractions, when you've combined them as much as you can and given that to God, you attain her vision. You need to cry to her with yearning. A kitten only knows how to call out mew, mew to its mother. Wherever the mother puts it, there it stays. Sometimes she puts it in the kitchen, sometimes on the ground or on the bed. When it's in trouble, it only calls out mew, mew. It doesn't know anything else. Wherever the mother may be, as soon as she hears this sound of mew, mew, she comes right away. Jai Thakur. Hariyo.
Very nice.
Hmm?
What are the Bengali words that Thakur said about places to go for solitude?
Oh, yes. When you meditate in your mind, or in a corner, or in a forest. It's very beautiful in Bengali. It's Dan korbe, mone kone obone. So mone is in the mind, kone is in a corner, and bone is in a forest. So some of these, it's hard to convey these things they rhyme and they're almost like sutras. So yeah, Dan korbe mone kone obone.